I think we're on. Good morning, everybody. My name is Frank Abellini, president of AdClub. Before I get started, full disclosure, if you hear baby noises in the background, I'm not running a daycare from my home. I have a one-year-old that doesn't seem to care when I'm having a meeting. Welcome to AdClub's first online Mindful Mornings event. We had hoped to be seeing you all in person for this event. Of course, that's not possible at this time. And the reality is we might not see you in person for some time still until things get back to normal. I know it has not been an easy time for many. Our worlds have shifted drastically. Phone meetings, video conferencing, working remotely, and trying to balance work and home life. The new phrase, social distancing, is everywhere. And for those that know AdClub well, you'll know that a large part of what we do is host events. We love getting together with our colleagues, networking, socializing. And the reality is, many of our scheduled in-person 2020 events may need to be modified for an online audience or simply postponed until next year. But I want to assure everybody that as soon as it's acceptable to be out again, we can look forward to being together with you to celebrate this amazing industry we all work in. Before I pass the mic, whether we're together physically, virtually, in these difficult times when we do need to practice social distancing, my hope is that we can avoid unintentionally practicing emotional distancing. Now more than ever, we need to support each other, share feelings, and be kind to one another. And with a promise of a brighter day ahead, my hope is that you'll all stay safe and healthy until we see you again. We hope you find today's presentation to be uplifting, healthy, and fun. I'd like to introduce first Jay Bertram from NABS to say a few words before he passes it over to Amanda Newell, AdClub's Director of Giving, who will then formally introduce our presenter, Ramona Braganza. Thanks again for tuning in. See you soon.
Thank you, Frank. The AdClub and NABS have a long history of supporting each other. The AdClub is a tremendous supporter of NABS, and we are very appreciative, especially at these times. We've never been busier. And it's kind of interesting. In our industry, we're all type A people. We do our work. Our best work, I think, when we're in teams, solving problems and creating opportunities. So when you take type A personalities, extroverts, and then you isolate them, that's a recipe for higher levels of anxiety than we already see in our industry. So we've seen a real surge in usage of the charity services, and that's a good thing. Just quickly, the PPE, as we say that we're providing our industry, is in three areas: mental wellness, financial counseling, and career strategy support. And these three areas are the highest demand areas. And the best way to get that information for everyone is just to go to a new simple page we've created called NABS Today. And that'll give you a view to what's coming up and where you can join in. And I encourage everyone at this time to use the services. They're free, they're confidential, and they're professional to help you through these times as we all get together. I think Frank's words were bang on. So now I'd like to introduce it to Amanda, who is an amazing supporter and donor of NABS over the years, who will introduce our speaker.
Thank you so much, Jay. And thank you all for attending. So when you're looking at Ramona's career, it becomes very obvious very quickly that this is a woman who's lived 10 lives in one. Not only has she driven Scarlett Johansson, Anne Hathaway, and Halle Berry into tip-top shape, but she's also been profiled extensively in magazines like Shape, Us Weekly, Vogue, Glamour, in articles that speak specifically to mental and physical wellness. So beyond that, she's been the spokesperson for both Kraft and for Coke's Vitamin Water. And then if that wasn't enough, she's given back by starting a charitable foundation in India that saves women rescued from human trafficking and teaches them how to become their own trainers and start their own training clinics. So her biggest challenge, however, might be the one in front of her today, when she teaches us all how to climb back from 8 weeks of pandemic stress and lethargy. Our session today will include 40 minutes of mind, body, and soul tips from Ramona, and then a 15-minute Q&A session. So if you'd like to submit your questions, for Ramona via the Zoom chat. I'll put as many as I can to the amazing Miss Braganza. And now, Ramona, without further ado, can you please turn back the ravages of 8 weeks of an all butter, all love is blind diet? Please, please help us.
Yes, I can. Thank you, Amanda, and hello, everybody. I am so excited to share what's keeping me safe and sane during this time. And yes, your questions are welcome. Thank you, the AdClub, for having me. And I'm coming to you from my living room. Well, it's my mom's living room where my fitness career actually started. And you know, this pandemic has really shifted our gears. It's made us spend time with people and ourselves, and also perhaps thinking about what our purpose in life is. So for me and my fitness journey, it's really been an interesting retrospect to see some of the memories I've discovered. So I don't know about you, but if you've been at home looking through your memories, you know, looking at the past is just as important as what's happening in the future for us. So with that, I'd like to start with my background. I actually began right here in the living room doing exercise. I don't know if you remember, I'm 58, so I'm not afraid to tell you that. But I started in the living room, it must have been the mid-70s, doing aerobics with an afternoon lunchtime show that rotated around, and everybody would just do aerobics, and I thought this was great. So at the time I was a gymnast. My gymnastics career started at the age of 9, and looking around the house, it's kind of funny, I found an old trophy from 1970 something. Gymnastics was my world. It really was the way I developed focus, concentration. It gave me dedication to a sport. And I find that anybody who's had an athletic background really knows how to do those things. They know how to focus. And that lasted me my whole entire life. And even now, while we walk the tightrope of this pandemic, focusing on staying afloat is really important. Focusing on the things that are important and in front of you and in the moment. So today we're going to cover a lot of really important things that you should be putting into practice, whether you're doing it already or whether you can start now. It's going to help you when you go out into the world in the next coming weeks. My gymnastics career, as I said, started at 9, and it went right through till I was 18. And during that time, I had a dream to go to Hollywood and become a star. I grew up in a small town. I'm here now in Brockville, Ontario, and 30,000 people. And during that time, my father would tell me, you know, save your money. So I found this penny jar. I had to save my money to go to Hollywood. I journaled all the time, and I still do. I have probably about 60 journals. This is actually a really good tool to handle the pandemic. So if you are thinking of, you know, how to purge out all this anxiety, this is one of the best tools I find. I had a lot of drive from living in a small town. I wanted to go and see the world. At the time, there were very few minorities living here, and that just upped the game even more. I wanted to make a statement in the world. In addition to that, I had a lot of spirituality in my life. So as a young child, my parents introduced me to my spiritual life. CORE is an event that young teens go to, and they're literally introduced to their faith. So for me, I think some of the principles of my childhood have helped me in my life to maneuver anything that's in front of me, any kind of adversity. And there are adversities that are going to come to you all the time. My parents actually came from India, from Mumbai. They had a very interesting life as well. They had a very challenging life when they were young. My mother lost both her parents. My father didn't know his father. So if I look at their life and how they made it to here, that really took a lot of resilience. It took a lot of resilience and a lot of inner strength. Right now, we're faced with a pandemic where we need to dig deep. We need to find that resilience. And you know, any kind of hardship that you go through in life, it builds your resilience. So there are ways that we can practice that. If there was an approach you were using before, especially if it's not online, a lot of fitness trainers are now online presenting because they're resilient. They realize we have to make money. We have to be creative. So resilience will teach you so much in your life. Mastering your emotions, for example. Perhaps you're somebody, your emotions run who you are. You're going to need to harness those emotions a little bit, and you're going to not let it control you. Because at the end of the day, your mind, you should be in control of your mind, and your mind should not be in control of you. So I'm going to show you a couple things that I teach my clients and that I've been using myself to get through this pandemic. But let's talk a bit about my journey post Brockville. So at 18, I went off to Toronto, the big city of Toronto, and I actually found my Toronto Argos. I was a cheerleader with the Toronto Argos, and this is my old Argo jacket, Sunshine Girl. So I wanted to be a star in Hollywood. Well, the next step was to go to the big city of Toronto, and I lived there for 3 years. I cheered from 80 to 83. And then in 1984, I made the move to LA, California. My first initial goal was to be an actress. I really wanted to do that, but I ended up getting a job on the LA Raiders. So that was really great because I had a family of girlfriends now, and kind of I could start doing music videos and a lot of things in Hollywood. On the way, I discovered that my gymnastics was going to come in handy. Fitness was just starting. It was the early 80s, and I found a trainer. We started working out at Gold's Gym Venice, and the very first actual Miss National Fit contest happened. So fitness contests had not started yet, but this one was the very first one, and I ended up being in the top 10 out of 50 girls. So that was that was probably my first time I really decided maybe fitness is something that I should be doing. I wasn't having a lot of luck with the acting, and that was okay. So I worked in a gym, and I met a producer, and he introduced me to my very first client that I would end up training, and that was Jessica Alba. So she was 17, I was 36. I was 20 years older than her, and she needed to learn some gymnastics for her role. Well, that was perfect for me because I could teach her what I knew. And we ended up going to Vancouver to film this show called Dark Angel. And then I rediscovered Canada. I fell in love with BC, and that was where my business began. So my journey to fitness has been really roller coaster, up and down. I've enjoyed every minute of helping people, and I'm hoping today that some of the tips, even though we won't work out hard, the goal really for me today is to share ways to overcome the mental stress that you might be going through. As far as where we are when we're going through a lot of mental anguish, anxiety, and stress, we're feeling very vulnerable. Now, the vulnerable side of life is something that you can actually embrace. When my father passed away a few years ago, and I do have a photo of my dad, he really was my hero. He was an amazingly kind man, and he supported my career the whole time. Every time I went off to LA, he would take me to the airport, and I would fly off. And when he was in his last day of his life, I was around him, and I promised him I would look after my mom. He took 2 breaths and he left, and his spirit left his body. And for me, that was a big turning point in my life. I wondered, you know, what is our legacy in this world? So in the time when you're sitting around and you're feeling vulnerable and you're feeling anxiety, you really need to think of things that you're going through as a positive. Vulnerability actually opens you up to new possibilities, new ideas, new ways of looking at life. And maybe our fast-paced life from before pandemic was something that felt comfortable and familiar, and now this uncharted territory is like we're walking on quicksand. But what's lying ahead, you really don't know. When my father passed away and I had a deep desire to find my legacy, I went to India. I was born in Germany and never been to India, and I went to India, and that was my discovery that fitness in India was booming. There were only male trainers everywhere, but it was a big business. So how could I get involved in this? Well, I released a book. I became Vogue magazine's Fitness Expert of the Year, and I found my purpose. I found the reason that I had this huge fitness journey, and it was in the girls in my charity, which I'll tell you more about later. But what I'm trying to tell you is the vulnerability you're feeling right now, if you can turn it around, If you can, you know, it's going to allow you to break out of your comfort zone. And when are we ever going to break out of our comfort zone? When things are going well? I don't think so. I think when things hit the fan, that's when we realize, well, what is this about? So sure, that's all fluffy and happy, I'm sure, and you're thinking, well, but I feel anxious every day and that's not really going to help me. So I'm going to show you some of the ways that you're going to harness, pull in, rein in that anxiety and rein in that stress, and you're going to put on your immune booster cape. Because if you're going back out in the world, you need to push up the positive power in your body and you need to suppress the negative energy. And the negative energy is the anxiety, the stress, the fear. So this is what we're going to do today. First of all, I want you to, if you have never meditated, meditation is an interesting thing. We've talked about it, you've heard the buzzword. Kids are doing it now in school. Meditation came into my life literally when I was in Dharamshala, that's up in the Himalayas. I happened to be there on the Dalai Lama's 70th birthday. Who knew? And there I am sitting with all the Tibetans, hundreds of Tibetans on the ground, cross-legged, sitting there and listening and watching the Dalai Lama, who's so close, and they're giving him a tribute. And for me, those 4 hours of sitting there chanting in the energetic atmosphere went like that. I did not have to stand up. I did not have to get a drink. I did not move. I sat there in meditation. What did I do? I probably just focused on the breathing, because that's what meditation is. It's not a long, hard thing to do. So what we're going to do right now, because I want to make sure I'm on time with everything, is we're just going to sit comfortably. Now you can sit in your chair, feet on the ground. We're going to close our eyes, and for 1 minute, we are going to just sit and breathe. So this might seem kind of hard for you to do, but let's try it. Are we ready? And start. Okay, so that was about a minute. I'm going to tell you what I do every morning. I wake up in my bed, and this is something I learned at a yoga ashram that I went to. I'm freezing, so I put my blanket around me, and I basically sit in this position, lotus, put my hands in lotus, and I close my eyes. I can set my timer for 3 minutes, and I just close my eyes, and I just am, just be. So the secret really for meditation is, yes, you're going to have your thoughts come in and all of that. But if you can start your day in a way where you're just open, where you can change and shift the brain waves from fast to slower, it's going to allow you more space to just be. And then you can be any time of your day. Now, does it sound a little hokey to you? Well, it did to me until I experienced it in my travels. I've done it in a pyramid, I've done it on the Himalayas, I've done it in my bedroom. And it's the same calm that you can get anywhere. So when you start feeling stress and anxiety, start your day that way. Here's another thing, alternate nostril breathing, super cool. You take your thumb and you take your fingers like this. They don't have to be like this. You can probably just pinch your nose like this. So we'll do that. You want to breathe in on one side, 4 counts, hold your breath, 4 counts, exhale for 8, and then breathe in again for 4, hold it for 4, and exhale for 8. Here we go. Inhale. Hold your breath. And exhale. 8 counts. Now inhale again, 4 counts. Hold your breath. And exhale for 8. Inhale. Well, you know how it goes. So it's called alternate nostril breathing. And I have found that has calmed me down in the most stressful times. And the biggest thing about this time is everybody's stressed, not just you. So when one stressed person talks to another stressed person, then we are really in trouble. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm back. This is the world of Zoom, and I hope that I'm back on live. Actually, I was watching a video of a few people trying to do this, Ellen and all, so I feel very comfortable knowing that I'm not the only one that has things happening. Alternate nostril breathing and meditation, and then we also have mindfulness. So what is mindfulness and how can we add that into our life? One of the things I found really beneficial is eating in silence. So one time during your day, whenever that is, and if you are by yourself, you're going to have a lot of silent times. And that's another thing we can discuss in a bit. But if you have a room full of busy people all the time, find a place and eat in silence. When you do something like that, what happens is you start to bring your focus internally in what you're doing, in how you're eating, and what it tastes like. It sounds kind of silly, but you're also helping your digestion, which in the long run, all our stress is digestion and excretion, so elimination. So your body is like a machine. Imagine it's a machine. Stress and anxiety stop your juices in your stomach from digesting your food, and then you have trouble eliminating, and then you're feeling really horrible, and you're gaining weight, and you're not feeling healthy. So we want to keep digestion going. And when you eat in silence by yourself, that really helps with digestion. So even when you go back to the post-pandemic world and you're at work, instead of a busy lunch giving off all that energy, we want to bring the energy back into our body. Remember I talked about the immune boosting cape. The things I'm telling you is going to support the insides of your body. Yes, we can put our gloves on and we can put our masks on, but the truth of the matter is how we are internally is really our strength. So let's keep going with mindfulness, ways to be mindful. I found this great quote, a couple quotes. I've missed the first quote, but here's a mindfulness quote. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is mystery, today is a gift. Now, I know you've all heard that. Living in the moment during these times is very, very important. We don't know what's coming. We see what our past is. This day today is our gift, is our day. We have to enjoy it from morning till evening and all of the things in that day, because that day will never come again. And the time you're spending with your children, with your dog, with your mother, all of that is valuable time to make memories in the future. And things will pass. Everything is going to pass. This is just a moment in our time. And what I realized when I've been through adversity, it seems it's going to go forever and it's the biggest thing ever. But what really happens is it becomes this much of your large life. It comes a time of change and it becomes a time of growth. So if you can change your thinking about this time, you are actually going to thrive instead of just survive. All right, so we'll keep going. I want you to put on your immune cape, and we talked about, I call it mental fitness. So the mental fitness we're doing every day, because like I said, first thing in the morning, you get up, you do your meditation, you do your breathing, you're going to do mindful things throughout the day. And in the evening, sleep. We need to sleep. So it is as much a mental challenge as it is a physical challenge. And I think last night when I didn't sleep well, because normally I have no problem, I hit the pillow, I'm out for 8 hours. I've conditioned myself to do this. The pandemic has not changed me that much because I've made a habit about it. But you've got to set some habits into place. So sleep. How do we go to sleep? huge things about sleep. I call it my 3-2-1 program. 3 hours before you go to bed, say you go to bed at 9 o'clock, 3 hours before, you need to stop eating. So I have dinner at 6 p.m. Early, yes. If you're by yourself, there's no problem with this plan. If you are spending late nights up, if you're drinking alcohol, and by the way, alcohol will keep you awake. It's sugar. It goes straight into your system and it wakes you up. So when you're trying to sleep, you're not going to sleep. You might sleep for a few hours, but you'll be waking up shortly after that. So if you can, do something like, I'll be talking about nutrition in my physical part, so we'll wait on that. But you'll want to do some things like turn the lights down. So 3 hours before you go to bed, make sure you stop eating. And then 2 hours before, start to turn the lights down. So dim the lights, and you can stop all your work. Last night, I worked right till I went to sleep, and my mind was racing. I was thinking about all the things to tell you, and I was wide awake till a couple hours later. And I went, that's why I tell people, stop working 2 hours before. 1 hour before you go to sleep, you want to turn off all the screens. So the blue light that comes from the screen, it's actually doing the opposite. It's releasing triggers you to wake up. It's got the cortisol and the adrenaline. So rather than the serotonin and the melatonin that's supposed to come into your system, you're doing the opposite. So you need to break away from the phone if you can. I try to keep it in another room, or at least flip it over, and definitely don't answer your phone if you've started to sleep, because you start going into that REM stage or into that sleep pattern, and then suddenly you wake up and then it's hard to go back to sleep. So those are my sleep tips. I also have dark blinds in my room, blackout blinds. A lot of the actors use those too, because dark, and the temperature should be around 68, which is probably 18 degrees. So we want to keep your body temperature also cool at night. Make sure you don't take a hot bath before you go to bed. Take it 3 hours before when you stop eating. You can eat in your bathtub. Just kidding. All right, so now we're going to go on to the physical side of physical fitness. We have mental fitness, physical fitness, and spiritual fitness. The physical fitness, for me personally, does not mean during this time we need to keep up our fitness that we had pre-pandemic. We need to remain healthy, we need to remain strong, and we need to continue to boost our immune system. So I went to India recently, and I go to an Ayurveda center. And during that time, I did a 10-day treatment. I participated in a number of things they do for weight loss, but I wasn't looking for weight loss. I was really looking to fix my cholesterol issue. So they gave me panchakaram, and I could not go faster than a walk around the grounds. I was not allowed to jog. I was not allowed to lift any weights, nothing like that. There's nothing like that. So for 10 days, I literally wanted to climb a mountain that I kept seeing, but I couldn't, because it's counteracting the benefits of the procedures they're doing. So when you're trying to support and build up your immune system and fight viruses, you don't want to break it down and stress it more, which is what a lot of training can do. Now, that does not mean once or twice a week you don't go and do a strength training class, or you go and I do Billy Blank's kickboxing a couple times a week. But most of the time is spent doing things that are going to the yin and yang. So we want to build up our immunity. So yoga, dance, Tai Chi, it's slower, but it's mindful, and it's giving you energy instead of robbing you of your energy. So I wanted to show you a few stretches that I really like to do, and I'm going to save them actually for the end in case I run out of time. Stretching for me is a big part of this time, because if we're sitting typing at the desk all the time, you'll want to stretch your lower back daily. You'll also want to make sure your posture is supported. Okay, so that does require you to do something like a wall flattener, and you can do this even just sitting wherever you are. You're sitting nice and tall, and you're keeping your elbows and your wrists back, and if you're against a wall, great. And we're just lifting and lowering very slowly, 20 times every now and then. It activates your the muscles between your shoulder blades to retract, to pull them back, to make you taller. So I do stretching for the full half an hour while I'm watching Jeopardy. And I tell people this because the goal for me to tell you this is that stretching is hard and painful, but if you have something to distract you while you're doing it, you're going to enjoy it a lot more. In the evenings, if you can come home and find some time to just do even 10 minutes of stretching for your body, because the stress that you're holding right now, even if it's just a head roll, you'll feel that in your neck. So there are parts of your body that hold a lot of stress, and we don't have to do a lot to give it a break, you know? Shoulder roll, do some kind of rotation. I'm doing this all while I'm sitting, so you don't even have to stand up to work out. And for me, something like CrossFit and anything very aggressive, when I go back to work, the post-pandemic world, might be too much for you for the first few months. So for me, weight management is an important issue. And I discovered when I went to the Ayurveda Center that plant-based really made sense. And I didn't have to try 10 days, 5 pounds dropped off like that. I've tried to continue my plant-based with the exception of I really love fish. And so fish is a part of it. Eggs are part of my program, and the occasional chicken. So where I was eating a lot of meat, at least 3-4 times a week, because to keep my muscle mass, all the protein. Well, protein exists in carbs and beans. So in rice and beans or in rice and dal. And I'll make a big pot of that on a Sunday. It will last me the first part of the week. So when you go back to work, think of bringing your lunch. You know, you want to keep giving your body nourishment that's immune system boosting. So I've got a drink for you here. This is called Kashaya. Kashaya is going to boost your immune system. What is in here, and this came straight from the Ayurveda Center, and Ayurveda has been around for 5,000 years. Ayurveda is Ayur stands for science, and Veda life, science of life. It is it originates in India, and I've been really including it in my my goal was to discover my roots, and each time I go to India, I discover something new and really important. So Kashaya, just take a shot of Kashaya. It tastes like water. You have ginger in here. You have the thing that makes it yellow is the turmeric, and it's curcumin, which is an antiviral properties. So it'll help you, and some peppercorns are in here. I've also been loading up on vitamins, traditional vitamins. So I have a friend who has this company, Max Infuse. This is awesome because it has a lot of B vitamins, so lots of vitamins. So making sure that you can get a lot of vitamin C. I eat 2 oranges a day. Vitamin C, turmeric, and a ton of water. All right, and I've started to drink warm water all throughout the day. Warm water is more what our bodies are used to because our water in our body is a little bit higher temperature than cold water. And what you want to do is you don't want to start drinking the cold ice water anymore. Let's support our immune system with warmer water. You can put some lemons in there too. So my routine in the morning, literally, I have my warmer water with lemon. I will have half a grapefruit. I'll have oatmeal, has a lot of extras in there, antioxidants and such. And I'll have a shot of my Kashaya. And I do have coffee. And then I'm ready to go. So you want to prepare in the morning before you go out there. You want to have your meditation and everything. And then you want to eat healthy. And then you put your cloak on and out you go out the door. So on your way to work, what I find is really uplifting for me is I've found a radio station. It has somewhat, I don't want to say it's spiritual music, but it has uplifting, positive music. And there were a couple songs I really liked to put on my playlist. Because in this time of anxiety and stress everywhere, if you can travel from A to B, at least in your own energy, and keep it positive, you're protecting yourself just a little bit longer before you step into an environment where, let's face it, there's going to be all kinds of people now working in this space. People who really believe in this and people who really believe in this. And everybody has to come together. So for me, I really find that making sure you respect each other, making sure you have a lot of patience, and making sure that you take a second before you respond. So we all want to respond instantly, and I'm finding that if I take a count of 3, 1, 2, 3, before I say anything, it might come out a little differently. Which brings me probably to the final piece here, so that we can fit all of the questions in, is our spiritual fitness. Now, I forever have had faith in my life, but I never knew the power of it until I climbed Kilimanjaro. So when I climbed Kilimanjaro, I was about 45 years old, and I was needing a change in my fitness routine. And a client at the time was doing it, and I thought, well, if Jessica Biel can do it, I'm sure I can do it. So I signed up with Care Canada, and we flew over to Tanzania, and yeah, I started pretty robust. I was doing my stretching every day. There were 7 of us. It was like the 3rd day, and then it was the 4th day, got a little harder. And then by the 5th day, well, it took us a day and a half to come down, so maybe it was something like the 5th day. We were just the day before we went and did the final climb. I had the worst diarrhea ever. I had lost everything. I was the only trainer. I felt really sick. I had felt sick the day before, but this day knocked me out. And the guide came in to me and said, if you don't eat today, you're not climbing, you're going back down. So I managed to put some spaghetti in my mouth with water, and then I went to sleep. And at 4 in the morning, I woke up. Actually, I didn't even sleep. I think that night I prayed my butt off. I said, God, if there's a way that you can just get me up this mountain, I'll do anything. Please just help me. At 5 in the morning, I woke up. Everybody woke up. I was starving. I went into the breakfast area. I ate, everybody staring at me. I mean, my oximeter was reading so low, it was shocking. When they took the reading, it had just gone back up again. And now I'm thinking, I feel fine, let's do this. So I had my water. I drank 5 liters of water that day without peeing once. That's how dehydrated I was. And my stomach felt great. Well, I came off that mountain the next, took 2 days to come down. And immediately the stomach situation came back. I had somebody visiting me. We were sick for 2 weeks. But for that brief period of time, something happened. And I truly believe it was either a miracle and God did it, or it was my mind. Because we can control everything in our lives. We want to control this pandemic. That's the one thing right now that somebody is saying, you need to learn to not be that much in control. But there is a lot we can do. That for me was a very spiritual moment, and it changed my mind about the power of prayer. And I think spiritual fitness at this time is something that is going to start, you're going to start seeing more of. It's up to you to experience or to try out whichever you want. I am not somebody saying you need to go now and pray in a church. That's the last thing I'm saying. What I'm saying is explore it. I watch every evening a Netflix show called Buddha, and I've learned so much about the life of Buddha, which is a historical story, and it's taught me lessons about humanity and about how to be. And then I go to my faith for the moment I can say, God's got this. God's got this. He's got us. He's got this. This is going to pass. So it's really been a wonderful thing to discover a deeper faith and spiritual fitness, something that everybody should do. And I believe now I'm almost at the end. Let me make sure. I'm really excited to hear any questions you might have. Oh, wait, no. Since we're talking about spiritual fitness, My legacy, when my father passed and I went to India and I discovered fitness booming everywhere, I very luckily met a woman named Priti. She took me down to the red light district of Mumbai and introduced me to her NGO, her charity, and I met 30 young girls ages 8 to 18. They were actually in a safe house that she's created, and I looked at this group of girls and I thought, they need to learn some exercise. So I started to teach them. I went back every visit. I hired a local female trainer to go and teach the girls some more exercise. And then we said, well, with this big fitness boom, only male trainers, what if we turn this group of girls into fitness trainers? This became my mission, my legacy. This is what I do now. I empower girls in India to become fitness trainers. I certify them. We were about to get the first girl a job in a gym when COVID happened. So hopefully that will continue. And amazingly, in my fundraising efforts in Brockville, I had one a couple years ago, I was introduced to a young girl here who at 15 years old was rescued from trafficking. The 401 corridor from Montreal to Toronto is very active. And we began to work out together. I know this program is the missing link between rescue and recovery. And so my goal is to bring 3-to-1 Empower into into Canada. That is hopefully going to happen. So that's become my purpose. So who knows, pandemic, no pandemic, you might find within this big picture a new path that is really, really going to give you happiness. And that's it for today. Amanda.
Ramona, thank you. I have to say there were so many points.
So I'm happy to take questions.
Absolutely.
Might be coming up.
If you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Ramona, can you hear Amanda? I think she cannot hear you.
Hello?
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
I
Ramona?
can't hear you, Amanda.
Oh dear. Okay, that's a problem. But
I wonder if it's the mic.
Alan, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Okay.
Let me see. We can hear Amanda. Okay.
Okay. Yes? Have you got me?
Maybe you can type maybe your audio. Let's see. Okay.
I can write the questions if needed.
I can okay, I can kind of hear it now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for all the tips that you've put forth. There have been so many. I mean, I have to say the alternate nostril breathing, brilliant. Warm water, I should say warm water, great. The Kashaya, lovely. And I know we have a number of questions, but if you'd like to put any more questions on the Q&A section, I will put them to Ramona. First of all, this question comes from Silvio. Ramona, you've reinvented yourself a number of times, but what has your biggest challenge in life been and how have you overcome it?
Okay, and I'm going to bring you a little closer because my volume's somewhat low. So can you please repeat that?
Absolutely. This question comes from Silvio. What has your biggest challenge in life been and how have you overcome it?
Well, that's a good question. My biggest challenge in life was a time when I was working in California. I had the best clients ever. I was at the top of my game. I had a lot of sponsorships. And suddenly my work permit was not effective. So I was not able to continue my career. It had a big break. I returned back to Vancouver where I had a business, but all I had known was in California for many, many years. And now suddenly it was all gone. I felt like my first year I was living in a complete, I don't even know, despair and just really turmoil with probably what many people are feeling right now. Their lives are literally changed, upside down, gone. People you know are gone. There's no more work. So I had to find a way out of that. And it took me a year and a half, I think, to actually go, wow, that really happened. First, you can't believe it. You go through all these emotions, anger, despair, everything. And you're thinking, why me? Why is this happening? Well, once you're past that phase, you start to find yourself again, and you find a new normal, and you do thrive. You thrive in ways you've never believed you could thrive, because you were mostly in just the cog in the wheel and exhausted. And I found myself driving to 4 clients' homes, coming back exhausted, going, I wish this would stop. Well, be careful what you wish for. But it will change. It will happen. You have to persevere. You have to pray. You have to believe. You have to keep positive. It will all change, and you will change too.
Excellent advice. Thank you for that. Heidi would like to see some of the stretches. So perhaps we can see a couple of the stretches if you
The
would
stretches.
Like to... Yes. Please.
Okay, so we have some time for that. I'll push my chair away. Now, unfortunately, the volume is very low. I don't really know why, but I'll just lead.
Okay.
All right, so stretches. When I stretch in the evening, I get down on the ground. If you can get on the ground, you're really going to appreciate the ground a lot, because you can roll around like a kid and you can play with your dog down here. I will always start with my straddle, okay? Your inner thighs are very tight. I will hold each move at least for 30 seconds. So you want to come down in the sides. You'll want to come down in the center. This is all for your lower back. This is always a good stretch. And you want to make sure you do your forward fold. I saw a man once in a gym. I had gone in with a client. He was in the forward fold the full time I trained my client for, I don't know, and he must have been 70 years old. He was down here like this. And I thought, that must be really good for releasing your back. Now, I love this stretch. Sorry about Morty, he's in the shot. I love this stretch. Can you still see me, Amanda?
I can, Ramona.
Okay,
wow.
This stretch here.
I have to say, my body doesn't bend that way, but that's remarkable.
You can also do a spine twist like this. So a lot of the yoga stretches are great. I've been doing something too for my toes. So I take my toes and I try to sit down onto, because our toes and our feet, really our alignment for our whole body is in our feet. So taking a stretch on your toes, something like this is really great. And then of course my quads are always tight, so I'll come down into this. So each stretch I try to hold for at least 1 or 2 Jeopardy answers. So I'm not quite sure how long that is, but I'm like, oh God, I got to switch it out. But it's stuff that I learned in my gymnastics days, and I don't stretch enough now, so this is making me do it.
Okay, that is fantastic. I love that. All right, I have to say we have a couple of questions on which radio station. You'd mentioned a radio station that you listen to on your way to work, and we have a couple of people who are very curious, one of whom is Heidi, who works for 2 radio stations, so I'm sure she's hoping to hear the call letters of one of the stations.
Yeah, can I get that to you? It's in my car?
Absolutely, of course.
Yeah,
yes.
I believe it's, I want to say 10, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say the wrong thing.
Okay, perfect. Cynthia would like to know, first of all, she says great session, but she would like to know the name of the Netflix movie that you referred to.
Oh, it's called Buddha. Buddha, and literally it's like 60 episodes, and it's an hour an episode, and I have watched it now. I'm on my 2nd time watching it, and believe me, Indian movie. It's in. You have to read the subtitles. Mm-hmm. It's very, I've been told, very colorful and a little bit cheesy. So if you can get past that part and just look at the messaging, when he becomes from a prince to a ascetic, the transformation, and then he literally, so it's like our world right now. We are princes and we're suddenly being forced to switch because everything's pushing us in a different direction. But you can go back to the world you were in before. We don't know how long it's going to last. You might not want to go, so you have to just let this all happen.
Wise, and thank you. Very sage advice. Abby who is Abby is from Mumbai and is currently living in Toronto and has started practicing meditation, but sometimes fears for the future. And how do you remind your mind to be in the present is Abby's question.
How do you bring your mind in?
Because we're all fearing for our futures and even the future of the planet, how do you keep your mind in the present? Just to make sure that you're within your meditation exercises.
Okay, the more times you practice, like anything, the more it's going to become a more natural thing. I'm at the phase right now where it's pretty natural to live in today. But I've also had practice for a long time doing this. Like I said, my first year of not having my normal life was very hard, very hard. Went through a lot of emotions, but I didn't give up on practicing. And when I went up Kilimanjaro was a few years later, and that was climbing a mountain of an emotional mountain for me as well. So you've got to think all these things that are right now in your path are emotional mountains and spiritual mountains and physical mountains. But the more you keep practicing, like, how do I train my mind to calm down? We're going to do it right now. So maybe 3 times a day you set your timer and you start to bring yourself into the present moment, whatever it is. So when your timer goes off, it reminds you, oh, I'm in my car, or I'm in my, here or wherever. This person's around me, and this moment right now is all I have. We really don't have much more. And I think the more you do that, like, I can wake up in the morning, I feel like going on a walk, I'll take my dog, I'll walk in the woods. That's such a great silent meditation. And it's a great way to look at the birds and look at the trees. People are saying the flowers are so pretty right now. I'm thinking they were always here. Maybe we just didn't notice them.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny. I wrote a couple of emails yesterday to people just to say, isn't it fun how we're discovering nature again? So you're quite right. I'm going to go to the next question, and it's a great one. One of our attendees has dreamed and worked to become a professional dancer. So they've already achieved a certain point and have had some injuries. And dancing is what they've always been passionate about, but they're fearing that major health problems have held them back. What would you recommend that this person do? And I know that's something that you've experienced as well.
Right. So if you love to dance and you're having some mobility issues, yoga or Pilates or anything where you actually have somebody where it's not fast. I can't dance anymore. I have some kind of meniscus issue right now. I'm waiting for the pandemic so I can go and have it looked at. But I start to move fast on it and it hurts. So what I've done is find something else that I can do, which is something like, sorry, the screen kind of has disappeared. Okay, so what I like to do now is I'll put the Tybo Billy Blanks on. He has music playing and I'll switch it and just do what I can. Sometimes I have to wrap my knee. I think if you have an injury and it's stopping you from dancing, just find another way to move for now, just for now, till you figure out what's going on. Because the worst thing to do is to feel despair, to stop moving, to start to internalize it, to reach for the bottle, whatever. You don't want to go down that road. Find other ways. I'm going to ride a bike since I can't run, so I'm buying a bike next week. I want to keep moving.
Okay, I love that. Thank you. All right. We have an ask for the recipe of the kashaya shot. So if you could just give us ideas of quantities of how much ginger, how much turmeric.
I can't believe I didn't give that when I was trying to fit everything in. So what you do is you take milliliters, 400 milliliters of water, 100 milliliters of milk, any kind of milk, put that into a saucepan. You're going to add ginger. We're going to add half of a teaspoon of turmeric and a 1/4 teaspoon of ginger and peppercorns, or you can do cinnamon. It all has antiviral properties, and you mix it. You boil off about 100 milliliters and you take a 100 milliliter shot.
Great. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Arujan says that you've been giving a lot of great advice, and Arujan has been taking notes. Arujan, just so you are aware, we're recording the entire session and it will be available on the AdClub site. But Arujan's question is, do you ever regret not becoming an actress?
Oh, no, I started working behind the scenes with Jessica Alba, and I went, I am not an actress. That girl is an actress. And all the actors that I'm around, I find, you know, at the end of the day, when they take the makeup off, or when you see them first thing in the morning at 5 a.m., they are who we are. I just think we all have different talents, and my talent was in fitness, and luckily it found me, and it's become, I'm happy when I go to work. I wouldn't be happy, I think, as an actress. I'd be stressed out.
I know. Yeah, that seems about right. Andrea has a question that is, do you have days of pause or personal retreat days away from people and technology? And if so, during those days, what do you do?
Well, I love going to movies. I'm a movie buff, and so now movies is just overload in the movie department. So I get out into nature, and walking, a nice nature walk for me really boosts me up. And other than that, I'm trying to write more. So I like to write. I find that's something that I haven't explored completely. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Sometimes my mom and I will just dance in the living room. She puts on this music. Mom, come here for a second.
Oh.
Since I'm in her house, she puts on this Christmas thing, and we start dancing. You know, you've got to make it funny here. This is kind of
Great. Hi. Hello. Good to
my
meet
mom
you.
has been down. Come here. No, come here.
Hello. Hello.
So this is Lucy. She's 85. She is still into fitness, and we have a class Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock. So that's tomorrow. Saturday morning at 10.
Yeah, 2 days. I know.
So
Who knows
please
what day it
join
is?
us. And yeah, you know, for me, exercising really brings out a lot of the stress and anxiety of things. And so I think that is my go-to thing, if not dancing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Lucy, lovely to meet you. Wonderful to actually have you in the session. Dina says, thank you, and great reminders. And she has 2 questions. Her first question is, where do physical exercises fit in the 3-2-1 sleep prep routine? And her second question is, if you see another person struggling with their weight, their fitness, their stress management, but they don't recognize it, can you start helping them without being intrusive? So again, physical exercise within the 3-2-1 sleep prep routine. And if there's someone you know that is struggling with weight and stress, how can you help them without being—
Oh boy, those are such good questions, and I'm literally struggling to try to hear your question. The first one was?
The first one was, where do physical exercises fit in the 3-2-1 sleep prep routine? And the second one is, if you see another person struggling with their weight or their fitness or their stress management, but they don't recognize it, how can you help them without being intrusive?
All right, the first one, where does it fit into the 3-2-1 into the sleep? So the workout, I'm guessing, how does that fit in with the sleep routine?
Yes.
You don't want to work out before you go to bed in a hard fashion. The yin-yang approach of yoga, where it's more relaxing, you're trying to send not cortisol hormones to your body, but melatonin and the serotonin and everything to relax you. So I would do the workout in the morning if you can. Whatever time your body is the most awake. So for me, it's 11 o'clock. That's when I'm the most energetic. For you, it might be earlier. If it's after work, the first thing after work, you come home. And I love the fact that everybody's walking. So we don't need to, and walking for weight loss it's been done for centuries. So why are we suddenly discovering walking will help you lose weight? The 3-2-1 workout is a 10-minute, 15. It can be done in any way. It can be done for an hour or less. So it's how much time you have. And I would do it then. So with your friend with the weight loss or whoever it is, I would say gentle, include her in some program or in some way to inspire her. So for example, you can say, hey, I listened to this talk, and tomorrow morning she and her 85-year-old mother going to work out. You want to check it out. And I think the thing is, we want to introduce people. We don't want to, right now, everybody's sensitive. So plant-based helped me really kind of switching to less meat. And if the industry is going the way it is, there might be less meat anyway. So that might help her too. I think just like little tips like that.
Yeah, that's great. We are running out of time. I've got a few more questions. I'm going to put as many as I can to you. Which spiritual retreat would you recommend?
Oh, a spiritual retreat. Well, I mean, it has to be local here. I'm not aware of any, so if people know and they can send me some messages, I can send that back to you, Amanda.
Okay.
I've been to the Bahamas. There is one on, so it's the Shivananda. Oh, in Montreal, there's the Shivananda retreat. But I think online now they have a lot of instruction.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. We have another question with regards to our, certainly in the marketing and advertising world in Toronto, we're busy constantly. And if we're not in front of our desk, we feel not productive. And how do we start to pare back the feelings of guilt if we take that 20 minutes or an hour to ourselves during the workday? So how do we sort of balance guilt with the fact that these are things that we need to do?
Are you still working with deadlines?
Yes, we are. There are still
Okay.
deadlines being imposed, definitely.
You know, that is a very tough question as far as the world that you're in requires some deadlines. And as long as there's deadlines out there, you are going to be pushed to produce at a certain time frame. Now, there's only so many hours in the day. And I think the biggest thing was we were trying to do too much in our days in the past. And then suddenly now we've got to schedule things a different way. But I think you need to take your health as important. Right now, deadlines are very important, but right now, what's going to help you keep the strongest when you go out into the world? And that includes your sleep time. You cannot take away from the sleep time. And it includes also like family time and all that, but maybe you make some 20 minutes in your day that you reset everything and you realize right now you can't do the productivity that you had before, but you will do it again. You don't have to mourn the loss of the person you were. That's still there. It's still inside you. It's just the situation has changed.
Okay, I like that. We have a couple of comments to end the session. Kelsey says, thank you for a great session. She's been very lazy recently, but it's a great reminder for her to take the time for mindfulness. And Anwar says, thank you for mentioning your cholesterol problem, and it makes Anwar feel slightly better about their high cholesterol level. And I have to say, Ramona, in ending the session, that you've been remarkable. And you've been so helpful in preparing us for that great hill that we have to climb, that Himalayas that we have to climb, and getting ourselves back and in shape mentally and physically for the return to work. But we truly thank you for this time, and you've been absolutely wonderful. And I think that's everything. We will also welcome Ramona back for an in-person mindful morning if everything works out as it should in September in Toronto. So of all of you who have attended, thank you for attending, and please come back to see Ramona in person in September. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Amanda.
And thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.